back to Thrashers Paradise, and today on another edition of Thrashing over Skype, we have a very special guest. His name is Marty Steele, and he is the creator of a brand new project called Shadoccult?
Shadoccult, you got it.
Perfect. I just assumed that's how it was said, but yeah. I was like, I hope I'm not getting corrected.
Yeah, you got it.
No, you just released your first EP on Monday, I do believe.
That's correct, yeah.
Yes, I just gotta say, I've been listening to it nonstop, and it's amazing.
Oh, thank you very much, man.
You're welcome. Now, you're based in the Waterloo area, which is one of the hotter metal scenes here in Southern Ontario, and you sound just completely different from everyone else. Was that the main goal? Was to sound different from all the other bands?
No, not at all. Not at all. Really, it just comes down to I write kind of what I want to listen to. When I listen to metal and kind of put it all together, I've got this picture in my mind of what I kind of want to hear out of the different pieces of different bands, and that's pretty much what came out of it. So it didn't, I don't know, kind of in that sense, it kind of writes itself. I don't make decisions. It's just what my preferences are and what I feel like doing.
Now, how long has Shadoccult been in your playing cards?
I think it's been in the works for about 2 years. From a decision making, I want to start a project, to working through and saying, yeah, I'm going to pull the trigger on, investing some money into an album and to just kind of launch the project. So it's been a thought process over the past 2 years, and then more recently, more direct action and getting into studio and getting the album out there.
Now, I know on percussions you had Greg from APOC and Stolos and Becomes Astral do all the drumming for that, and I forget, but you had another guest as well. Who was that other guest?
There was no other guest. So everything was written by myself, and then Greg did all the percussion himself too. So I kind of had like MIDI tracks written up in a demo, and Greg's been a long time friend, and I threw it at him, and he was all for it, and he laid it down, and it was awesome.
I know. How do you feel after the final outcome of the album?
Good question, man. It's a wild ride as a musician. It's highs and lows for sure. Right now, I feel like I'm riding almost a little bit of a low after like their big anticipation period for the launch and everything else, and then coming out the other end. There's kind of it can be an interesting process, but really, I'm really happy with the way that the album turned out. Just in general, putting together kind of the image and what the band wants to represent, I'm happy with it. My dream really came together the way that I wanted it to. So I'm really happy, and I see a lot of potential for a lot of things through this project.
Now, I'm to assume that once this whole quarantine period is over and out of the way, I could expect you might have the urge to put on a live show, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. We had something lined up at the end of June. Who knows what will happen at that time. But the good news is I do have guys working on the parts, close friends who have talked to me about if we ever do live stuff, getting and dividing up the parts, because I wrote the album to make it very playable by groups. So I have people that have agreed to it and are working on it. And when we get out of quarantine, we're going to start to rehearse all together and throw something together and definitely throw a show.
Awesome. Now, because Shadoccult does sound so different from a lot of the other metal bands in the Southern Ontario area, do you feel that will make it harder to kind of book shows?
No, to be honest, I think the opposite. I think I can chameleon kind of into a couple different genres. I think my biggest thing that stands in my way is the no clean vocal stuff, and I get it. But again, it's like I want to be like a Motorhead, kind of like I want to like pull people from different genres, different kind of groups. My goal is to have it in a way that people who don't like metal listen to it and like it, but also my diehard metalhead friends are really connect with the album too. So I think that it has a pretty wide play and base and audience potential, and I think that will translate into shows too if I can get my name out there well enough.
Excellent. Now, when creating the album and writing all the lyrics to the songs, what for you personally was the hardest song to write?
Oh, good question. Yeah, that was lyrics particularly can be really challenging, and getting a really what I want as a first album, what I want across, because that's kind of a debut is a really, I don't know, it's a little bit different. People are listening to you for the first time and making that first opinion. I think that I have to say Brotherhood. I had this feeling with the demo that it didn't carry the power, and that the lyrics were almost going to sound cheesy. And then when we got in studio and laid it down, we actually thought it was one of the heaviest tracks. So that kind of relieved me. So that was a nice. But the process, it's funny through the process. You never know until you're kind of at the end.
Awesome. Now, during the whole getting the album recorded, mastered, and all that, what for you personally was the hardest part?
Whew. Well, waiting is hard for me. Yeah, absolutely. When you've got something kind of put together and then you've got to send it up for mastering, or it's in other people's hands. In this process, I tend to record a lot of my own stuff, just kind of self-taught in my basement, and that's something that I've been doing for a long time. So kind of relinquishing controls, working with other people, not having total control over it was less work in a way, but also kind of made me a little bit more anxious that there was a lot more, it could go a lot of ways, let's say. But again, like we talked about, really happy with the way that it came together. Had a really good experience with Jonah Kay. I don't know, I really feel like in albums you get a sense of how the chemistry goes between the artists and people in studio, and I think that Shadoccult kind of shows that it's got a good groove, a good overall sound and feel to it, and that's production, that's engineering, that's everything.
Excellent. I'm glad you brought up Jonah Kay, because that's the name I was trying to think of. That was the other guy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, yeah. That's who I was thinking of. But no. So yeah, working with Jonah again, great guy, has produced a lot of the albums from the scene. Yeah. Was it an easy choice to want to work with him?
Honestly, I took a risk in that I didn't know Jonah too well. I knew he had done sound for me a lot and was an excellent sound guy, and someone I knew if I showed up to a gig and Jonah was doing sound, I knew it was going to be a good gig. But we hadn't had the time to connect on a personal level. And that's, like I said, that's a kind of freaky thing in a studio. While you can work with someone who has all the skill in the world, but if you don't have that chemistry with them, it can be, you don't have that comfort. You don't get the music doesn't have that comfortable aspect to it. So it was awesome. I'm very happy, and we became pretty close in the process too. So that was fun.
Awesome. And a lot of your friends like Kyle DC and Angelo have been sharing the album like crazy. Yeah. What was that like, just to know that all your buddies are sharing your new masterpiece, kind of?
It's really cool. Actually, a lot of times in my music career, let's say, I've been like just really trying to bait people and get people excited. And I feel like a lot of times when you're in startups, people can be excited just to support you, knowing you're getting started, as opposed to authentically being into what you're doing. And I get a sense now with releasing this stuff and those guys in the Metalhead Brotherhood, I just feel hugely supported, like authentically supported, which is really cool. Not just, hey, he's a buddy, but like there's actually something to the music too. So
excellent. Now, because you're in such a nice scene in Kitchener, Waterloo, with a lot of the big name local bands, who for you personally would you love to share the stage with one day?
Like locally or
locally.
Locally, well, to be honest, one of the bands that I've looked up to for a long time in the scene is APOC, and they would probably be a first choice. Again, here's what we're looking at in the scene is a lot of thrash, a lot of death metal vocals, and thinking about putting together a show, and actually in the process of it before kind of getting derailed by quarantine and things like that. What I wanted was to blend some genres in a show. I wanted APOC to represent the kind of the heavier death metal vocals, and then Shadoccult to have the clean stuff. And then I was looking at some other clean openers as well. So I don't know, still in the process of putting that together, and hopefully that'll happen sooner than later. APOC was a number one choice. I don't know. There's a big list there, to be honest.
Now we'll translate to bigger name bands. Who would you like personally one day out of the blue just for Shadoccult to get an email from saying, hey, we want you to open up for us?
Biggest name probably would be Dimmu Borgir.
Ooh.
They're probably the biggest influence on the album. The puritanical euphoric misanthropia, when I listened to it and when I felt that was pretty much when I was like, yeah, I gotta do metal, I gotta put stuff out there, like I gotta try to make people feel the way that this album made me feel. So it would be Dimmu for sure.
Now, I'm assuming this isn't your first rodeo. This isn't the first project you've been part of.
No, actually, I've done the solo thing for a while. I've got solo music out there. It's all over the place. It's in every genre. I was working with just making music for advertising and media. I was doing session work with a bunch of bands. It kind of just a mixed focus. And Shadoccult was the first real time that I really focused in on something, which is part of the reason why it took 2 years to kind of get everything solidified. Now it all seems easy and like it was nothing, but the process of putting it all together, it was quite an experience.
Awesome. Now, you have the album out. What for you, after this whole thing's done, besides trying to book a show, is the most important thing for Shadoccult to do to help promote and get their name out there?
Well, I guess online content right now is pretty key. We just had a live stream as well, which was a lot of fun. Thinking of putting together something next week as well, just kind of keeping that content going. Shooting some video of I'm interested in writing like a lot of choral stuff. Like I want like just choir based music as well as other kind of classical orchestras, let's say. But I want to write some choir music and overdub myself and singing it, so it's like a small group ensemble, but it's like the quarantine version of myself kind of creating a choir on its own. These are my thoughts as because our get out of your house deadline keeps getting extended, so we'll see, but I don't know. It should be interesting to see what creatives really come up with in this situation and what kind of comes out of our music scene as a result.
Excellent. Now, I was on Metal Ejection's website the other day, and I read an article about a poll they did or conducted to try and figure out when metalheads feel there'll be concerts again, and the majority of the people were saying the month of September would start to be that month of concerts happening again.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, good question. That's a big question right now for sure. I don't even know if it will become even the comfort of people getting out and things like that. I feel that summertime will play a big role as far as people getting out and about, and in winter times, I know like germs and viruses can be very, very insulated. So getting people out there hopefully will help mitigate that and speed up the process. I would love to see it before September. I'd love to be optimistic and say August would be great to have the venues starting to open up and getting people out there. I don't know. I'd probably err on the optimistic side, but who knows at this point.
Now, besides trying to make an impact in Kitchener, where for you, outside of that area, would you like to make an impact with Shadoccult?
Europe, for sure. Seeing a European metal scene, getting Pat Corcoran, one of my best friends, and myself went to Wacken in 2011, and being out there and seeing European metalheads, seeing like adults with kids that are like death metal fans and like families who go out all the time, like it's just different there. And so just getting to see that experience of how integrated it is into the culture, I'd love to break through that and get my music into that and be a part of that music scene, and who knows, maybe even festival scene.
Awesome. Now we're down to the last question. This is a question we ask all of our artists that come on. We call it a poser question to ensure we're talking to actual metalheads, because it would be awkward if we're doing all this and then for some reason One Direction comes out of the blue.
You never know.
You never know, yeah. So the question is simple. Who would win in a fight, Lemmy or God?
Lemmy is God.
That is correct. Marty, thank you so much for coming on Thrashers Paradise today and doing this interview. I appreciate this. I love the album, and I definitely would love to have you back on to promote any future stuff with Shadoccult.
Yeah, you got it. Sounds
excellent.
Great, man. We'll be on any.
Perfect. Anything else you'd like to tell the audience watching this right now on YouTube?
Honestly, I'm just happy that you guys are doing what you're doing with Thrashers Paradise and just getting it out there, just keeping the scene alive. That's so important to artists like us. So it's awesome that that you're doing this and yeah, keeping the spirit of metal going.
Thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen at home, please make sure to check out Marty and his project, Shadoccult, on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Bandcamp, wherever you think they might be. I don't know. They could be anywhere, really, right?
Yeah. It's
Awesome.
everywhere.
Exactly. And until next time, keep on thrashing.